Does Deontay Wilder really want a body on his record? Is he as bad and as nasty as he wants people to think he is? And what actually is, what really is the Bronze Bomber? All of this and more, people, will be discussed in this Believingbruce psychoanalysis of the thing that Deontay Wilder calls the Bronze Bomber. So welcome back to my channel, people. It is good to have you here. It's Believingbruce, the body language guy. Mental health, performance, psychology, well-being, anything to do with the head and the heart, this is the channel for you. Remember, that's what we're trying to do. Just trying to spread the knowledge of what goes on so we can think, feel and act that little bit better by being more in control of our thoughts and feelings. Thoughts become things. And again, by spreading the knowledge out there, it's hopefully going to help others. But in this case, if you come up with somebody, if you're competing against somebody, if you're in a fight with somebody, then maybe you can use this knowledge to help the other person think, feel and act that little bit worse, to have a detrimental effect on their performance. And it all comes down to thinking, feeling, acting. From a human performance angle, thinking, feeling and acting. And I'm going to explain as this video goes on. And also, can I just point out here, I've had some messages on YouTube, that if you're wanting a channel that discusses how to make slime, or look at me after I've ate nothing but McDonald's for 24 hours, or any of this other stuff, then this isn't the channel for you. But if you are interested in psychology, you are interested in performance, you are interested in understanding how your brain works so that you can perform better, then this is the channel for you. The fight's nearly here. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. Brilliant, a fantastic matchup again, and it brings all of the emotion and the what will, what could, what would from the first fight into this rematch. So what I'm going to do here is a psychoanalysis, so Freudian if you will, the ego, the superego, the conscious versus the subconscious, Sigmund Freud. Analysis of what I believe is actually going on with this thing that keeps getting referred to as the Bronze Bomber. And again, remember, with Believingbruce here, it's not about being over-optimistic, it's not about being pessimistic, it's about being factual and balanced. And this is what I'll be trying to do throughout this video, is to pick up on points that Deontay Wilder offers or has done consciously or subconsciously, and give you examples of actually he may be saying this, but what he really means is this, or he may be offering that, but actually that can't be true, so it must be either A or B. So I'm basically going to try to demystify in layman's terms for you what is actually going on here in this pattern that we call, this thing that we call the Bronze Bomber. Remember, it's around about the mental tactics that I discuss. What could be deployed, what could be held back, what could be offered at certain points that could give one fighter the mental advantage over other. And remember, when we talk about the mental advantage, thoughts becomes things, thinking, feeling, performance. The performance is always affected by thinking and feeling. If you can control this, then you can control the other fighter. It's not skullduggery, it's not, this feng shui thing that just demystifies. How we think, feel and act is at the core of everything that we and our opponents do. And when it comes to body language, there was no one more enthusiastic or passionate about it than yours truly, Believingbruce. I met Joe Weller. I said to Joe, tell the crowd who's the best body language guy that you're aware of globally.
Believingbruce.
Joe, you're too kind. I said to True Geordie, who is the second most enigmatic, charismatic Geordie YouTuber who just happens to be a body language specialist.
Believingbruce.
Oh, Brian, I love you, brother. Eddie Hearn was asked a question. He said, Eddie, in the boxing world globally, if you had to go to anybody to try and get some psychological understanding of boxing opponents or from a body language reading perspective, who would it be?
Believingbruce.
What more can I offer, people? Alright, so let's get into it. The Bronze Bomber. Now, the Bronze Bomber, let's have a little bit of a chronological look, a historical look at where the Bronze Bomber come from. So the Bronze Bomber come around when Deontay Wilder was in the Olympics and he won bronze, come third. And again, you got a boxer called Joe Louis. Now, Joe Louis was, fascinating. If you're a boxing historian like me, Joe Louis has got a whole load of history and the impact that he had on the wider boxing world as well. But he was called the Brown Bomber. So from what I'm led to believe, the Bronze Bomber, the Brown Bomber, it's sort of a trade-off based on the fact that bronze has got nothing to do with his colour, it's the fact that he come third and he got the bronze medal. Now, there's been a bit of a morph, an evolution, a development from the Bronze Bomber nickname that he gave himself because he won third, to this caricature, this thing that exists now that has almost become a different person, or at least that's the narrative that Deontay Wilder offers and he would like other people to believe. He might believe in himself, and we'll go into that later on. But it's come from a nickname to something else across here, where it's actually a belief pattern, an entity, a desirable mind state to put himself in. But my point here is there's been an evolution. It's went from here and it's across here. And the narrative that's been played, it's almost like become a cultural expectation. We've accepted as a society, a boxing society, if you're into boxing, that this bronze bomber thing, that actually we've stopped checking if it isn't real. That we are actually going along with the narrative. We are feeding the narrative because of what Deontay Wilder says and also his actions within the ring. But what I'm trying to get across here is that we've stopped checking about what it is. What is it we're actually talking about? What is it we're actually buying into? What impact does it have on our heads and hearts when we start talking about this bronze bomber title, this label that he gives himself? So I want to go back, like, when did the bronze bomber thing start become more of a thing? And you'll see here, so I went back on BoxRec, I looked at all Deontay Wilder's, and I just went on YouTube and looked for the ring walks about Deontay Wilder versus an opponent. So just done some searching there. And what I come across was one fight against GB's own Audley Harrison. Air Force, we've got a link to Air Force, bless him. Yeah, but you'll see here, the point is, when Deontay Wilder comes into the ring, there's no mask, there's no crown, there's no nothing. It's just Deontay Wilder, the bronze bomber, and here we go. Now, if you take this across way, you know, when I said there's been an exploration, there's been an elevation, there's been an evolution of this bronze bomber thing, you'll see here in his rematch with Ortiz, it's like, it is like black and white. It's like a chalk and cheese. You couldn't get more far away from each other. Like, it literally looks like the Ice Queen from Narnia. So my point here is I'm providing evidence that there has been an evolution. Alright, so when Deontay Wilder talks about he transforms into something, or it's not him, it's the bronze bomber, well, actually, the evidence shows that potentially there has been a development of it, there has been a growth of it, there has been some more energy put behind it. So therefore, it hasn't always been what it is, which is beautiful, because if you ever meet somebody like this, or you're going up against, remember, not just boxing, but any type of era, any type of arena, I should say, is that because it's grown, you can then shrink it. Because it's been constructed, you can then deconstruct it. Because it's been built, you can smash it. Again, this thing where we look at the sort of difference between Deontay Wilder out of fight compared to into a fight. And again, he's given himself a time zone, if you will, of on fight week, the bronze bomber appears. Whoa, that sounds exciting. It's like on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus comes. Like on Halloween, all the witches and stuff come out. He also talks about where, you know, it's not him. Another thing takes him over. Now,
I try to explain, but I don't know how. I don't know how, because it'll confuse people. I can only go through the perspective of as a fighter and how I see it and how I know it is. Like, people don't understand, especially when I'm in the ring. I'm not me. I'm not Deontay. I'm not.
Again, factually, I said I always like to be based here in facts and not over-optimistic, not pessimistic, but just try to explain what people mean by the words that they use. Because what Deontay Wilder, I think, was really trying to get across here is that, no, unless he's got schizophrenia, like multiple personality disorder, or unless, let's face it, he may be being possessed by a demon called the Bronze Bomber. It's unlikely. So because all that cannot be true, or possibly not true, it's really hard factually to say, yeah, you do become someone else. Someone else takes over your body and becomes the Bronze Bomber. It's simply not factual. And I'm going to explain in a little bit why actually the narrative that he uses is just explaining with a bit fireworks, with a bit pizzazz, with a bit more energy, you know, a bit of a jazz band going on. It's like elevated. The normal stuff that any person goes through when they go through a fight, when they come to the position where they have to achieve something based on a thing called self-preservation. Now, I want to talk about nicknames, because this is what it is. It's a nickname. It's a label that Deontay Wilder has associated with himself. It's a title that he's given himself because he wants to feel this. Yeah, it's gone from the Bronze Bomber Joe Louis being, you know, that coming third in the Olympics, to this powerful demon monster evolution. Do not mess with me, I will kill you. At least that's the narrative that he would like us to believe. But the label gives him comfort. The nickname gives him belief. The narrative that he plays gives him a warm feeling around himself, and nicknames are pretty common. You may have a nickname. Your friends may have a nickname. You might give nicknames to your friends. People who you meet, sports stars, boxing. So from a study of anthropology, anthropological studies, so societies, communities, etc., but also humanistic, empathic connections, that it brings us closer. So you look at me, I'm called Bruce. Now some people might call me B. It's an affectionate term. It's like it takes down some social barriers. It makes me feel closer to you. But nicknames and labels can be very powerful. Kobe Bryant, for example. Kobe Bryant unfortunately just passed away in a tragic helicopter accident. But Kobe Bryant had an allegation, I think it was a sexual allegation against him, where that tarnished his name, if you will. So I've read on a number of sources where he gave himself the name Mamba. I think that's what it was, the sort of Mamba mindset. And that allowed him to transform, to almost release the shackles, or maybe the perceptions of what he had, of what the world thought of him, to think, feel and act in the way that he wanted to in order to be the best Kobe Bryant. But he gave himself that Mamba, so when he come onto the court or when he was practicing, whatever, it wasn't Kobe Bryant, it was Mamba. And the narrative that he played and the energy that he put behind it, people actually, this Mamba thing come a lot more powerful. But then you've also got people play up to their nicknames. Yeah, so you might have a pal called Mental Mickey. Mental Mickey's a bit crazy and all this type of stuff. But what you do is when you introduce Mickey to other people, you say, oh, this is Mental Mickey. And because you're saying this is Mental Mickey, Mickey goes, yeah, I'm Mental Me. He actually lives up to that nickname. It gives him permission, but also it constrains him, it guides him into a behavioural pattern to exhibit certain behaviours that may or may not be helpful for him, but because he feels he's got to fit into that, yeah, we've got Mental Mickey. Even Geordies. Yeah, when you go on holiday, people ask me where you're from. Oh, I'm from Newcastle. Oh yeah, Geordie is a crazy, whoa. And you'll often see Geordies say, yeah, we're crazy, whoa. Actually, I'm not sure we are. There's enough evidence to say that we're probably just exactly the same as everybody else. Yeah, no, really passionate about boxing, so I was looking through some of the library that I've got. And I've got an example of some boxers with nicknames. So I'm going to show you now, you may or may not have heard of these boxers. If you're not into boxing, you may not have, but I'm going to tell you their nicknames and I want you to feel, to become aware of, just a little exercise, to become aware of, when I said the nickname, how did it make you feel? If you were fighting them, how would it make you feel? If you were watching them, how would it make you feel? The first one we've got, Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard. How does that make you feel? Second one, Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. No mas. Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull. Who are you fighting tonight? I'm fighting the Raging Bull. How would you feel about that? Iron Mike Tyson. Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Carl the Cobra Froch. To be fair, in the interest of being authentic, just how I feel about that, Carl was probably the least Cobra-esque person you could come across. He didn't have the fastest punch, he didn't strike like a Cobra. Probably the Heavy Wrecking Ball would be more of an appropriate title. Something that you could see coming, but if it caught you, it was going to put you down. So, how did you feel about those nicknames? Because when I offer a word, when I offer a nickname, when I offer a label, it can have impact on how you think, feel and act. Iron Mike Tyson. Hands of Stone Duran. Hitman Hearns, Hitman Hatton. So when you have a nickname, you can get some gratitude, you can get some warmth and self-belief from it, but it can also, depending on the person who you're fighting, not everybody's the same, but it can also have a negative impact on that person that you're fighting. This is what I believe is going on here. Deontay Wilder, because he can live up to, he can deliver on this bomber nickname that he's given himself, he's looking for ways to both make him feel happy, for him feel warm and calm and contented, and even, to believe in himself that little bit more. He's dealing with an inner voice argument that's going on in here, which I'll explain in a little bit. But also it can impact, it re-emphasises the fact that you're going up against Deontay Wilder, and this is what I can do. It's a reaffirmation of his power that he puts together very well. Labels, I worked with a guy called Paddy Fitzpatrick. Now again, if you're not in the boxing world, you probably won't know him. But Paddy Fitzpatrick stepped in to help George Groves when he split from Adam Booth in his 2 fights with Carl Froch. A little picture here, this was in 2003. So that's going back 17 years. So there's Believingbruce with Paddy, and also a boxer called Jamie Cox here, just won the Commonwealth gold medal, Swindon boxer. Paddy used to be part of the team. He's trained Layla Ali, he's been under Freddie Roach's tutorial, he's been all over the shop, like a whole load of well-known and respected trainers. And he was telling me about a story where the self-belief label come in, because a heavyweight boxer called Layman Brewster was fighting none other than Vladimir Klitschko. And they were having real problems with Layman's belief system. that doubt, that self-doubt. And again, I posted on Instagram today, the toughest opponent you'll ever meet is the one inside your own head. The bloke that you're going to meet, the woman, whoever it is that you're going to meet across the side of the ring, if we can use that analogy, it'll never be as tough as the opponent, your own self-critique system that you've got going inside here. What they did do with that is come up with a label, which was just, I am. I am. And it allowed laymen to start believing in what was the possibilities, what could happen of a possible, what if I can, what if I will, what if I won? I am. Now that label, it wasn't necessarily a nickname, but it was a label that they applied to laymen, that he started to see himself as, I am going to do this, I am going to do that. And he went on and done it. He beat Vladimir Klitschko for the heavyweight title of the world. So depending on the person, labels can have such a positive effect on your performance, or a detrimental effect on your performance. Again, I'd done a previous video that actually showed a real humble side to Deontay Wilder, a side that he actually didn't like confrontation when people were face to face, when it was just him. So there was him, Tyson Fury, and the host of the show. I'll put the link below if you want. If you haven't watched that video, go and watch it, because there is numerous examples when Deontay Wilder gives observable body language where he feels humbled, uncomfortable, feels a bit awkward, like the head goes down. Even when they're face to face, he's got his head down and then it comes up. There's no direct eye contact, or there's not an elongated space of direct eye contact. He's taking what we call, from a body language perspective, easy ways out. Anything not to look at the particular threat, which is the threat which is coming towards him, which was Tyson Fury in that case. But remember, if you are enjoying body language or psychology, please give us a love and subscribe below. Be great if you could subscribe. So the idea is that we know that he can be humble, because in those situations where he's feeling the threat, where that threat is real, it's not that he's scared, he just feels awkward. He doesn't feel the best version of him. And again, this is not me making this up, this is the data that is clearly available. So when he goes from feeling humble and awkward and a bit like, oh, I'm not sure how to deal with this, to this bronze bomber, I believe he uses the bronze bomber to help him deal with his inner voice. It's a permission giver, it's authorization. It's the, he talks about this alter ego. It's a narrative that he plays in his head in order that he can display the behaviors that helps him cope with fight week, like helps him get in the mood for fighting, in order for the best version of Deontay Wilder to come up. And again, so it's not a bad thing, it's not a weak thing, he's not, he's not anything like that. It's just a mental process that he's found that allows him to prepare to go to war, to prepare for the boxing fight. What he's talking about, all right, is situational behavioural dependency. So my behaviour is dictated by the situation that I find myself in. And what he's really saying is, I'm preparing for a fight. That's all. He's preparing for a fight. The words that he uses is different. The phraseology that he uses is different. But he's all he's saying is, I'm preparing for a fight. Now he can jazz it up as much, he can make it dark and dingy and dirty as much as he wants. But strip it back, and what you've got is you've got somebody who is preparing for a fight. You've got that critical date coming forward. No more than that. It's almost like a mental visualization. It gives him permission to be something he's not, something actually he's not comfortable with. But what's really interesting is, why does he need that permission? From a psychological perspective, I'd be jumping on that if I was one of his opponents. Why does he need that permission? Where is that area? Where is the particular gap in here where he can't just be him, but where he needs to have this belief system to help him elevate the performance by saying, actually, Deontay is not so great, but the bronze bomber, it's like, I want to be. The bronze bomber is a bit like his hero. The bronze bomber is what he wants to be. The bronze bomber displays language and behaviours that he is allowed to do because, hey, it's the bronze bomber. Oh, it's not Deontay. Well, of course it's Deontay. It's always Deontay. But it's the title, it's the nickname that he gives himself. Why is that weakness? Why is there a gap there? What is the gap? And I think it comes down to do self-confidence. And I'm just saying this on the limited data that I've got. Self-confidence that negates his own belief that if he was just Deontay, he might not be able to cope with fight week. He might not be able to cope with camp. He might not be able to cope with the build-up as well as he does now. Which is why he needs to use this bronze bomber. Which is why all the narrative and all the energy around is that I transform. I'm a machine. It's a different person. Ladies and gentlemen, the bronze bomber doesn't exist. It's a belief pattern. It's a comfort blanket. It's something to hide a gap in his own self-confidence because Deontay Wilder can't deal with this. Now, admittedly, it might be mental Mickey. It might be mental Mickey coming to the party. Hey, here's the bronze bomber. Yes, I am the bronze bomber. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. But from a really interesting perspective is that because it is a belief pattern, because it is a comfort blanket, because it is a narrative that allows him to become something, then from a tactical point of view, and again, this is not just boxing, this is anywhere, if you come up against someone who's created this thing, this other you know, this other label that they are buying into, that they want other people to lie into, well, I'll be just ripping that comfort blanket away. Because when you rip the comfort blanket away, it can be very cold and very scary for the person who's always had the comfort blanket around their shoulders.
People don't understand, especially when I'm in the ring, I'm not me. Because they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? But when you get in the ring, you risking your life for real. You putting it on the line for real. Like, it becomes a different story. Anybody that put their life on the line for anything would know how I feel. It don't have to be boxing. It can be anything. You can be in a situation and have your life on the line. Like, my mind going through so many things right now because not only am I in preparation for Fury, like, I'm the transformation of the mind. Like, I got a fight coming up, and it's time. This is what I'm here for. So the transformation already has begun. Like, my mind is starting to transform.
So putting that all together, the narrative that he plays, the fact that he gives himself the nickname, the fact that he puts the energy behind that, the fact that it cannot be a transformation between one person and the other because that physically doesn't exist. The fact that he's actually said on numerous interviews, I want a body, but then on this interview he says, it's not me, it's the Bronze Bomber. It's a self-soothe, it's a narrative. Put that together with the fact that he is humble in his natural environment, because we've seen that with Tyson Fury. The body biology doesn't lie. He is a naturally humble guy in awkward situations like that. Well, at least he feels awkward. Put all that together, and the Bronze Bomber is nothing more than a comfort blanket. It's a permission giver for him to do what he wants to do, to dwell, to cool that inner voice inside of him, that he may feel that little bit embarrassed about doing the stuff that he does, but hey, it's not me, it's the Bronze Bomber. And the beautiful thing about constructing something like this belief system, this comfort blanket, is that if you are his opponent, quite easily, with a few mental tricks and techniques and how you compose your narrative and the actions that you give, you could whip that comfort blanket away from him, which would leave him cold, exposed, but more important than that, affect the way he thinks, feels, and then acts. It all comes down to thinking, feeling, and acting. Can't wait for the next press conference. I'll be doing the body language analysis for Fury and Wilder. Drop us a message at Instagram or Twitter if you've got any other examples of body language that you would like me to discover. But more importantly, believe in Bruce. Be kind to yourselves and each other.